All right, hello everyone. I'm Katy June-Friesen. I'm Communications Associate at SBAN, and I'm here today with LeJuano Varnell. He's Executive Director of Sweet Auburn Works in Atlanta's historic Sweet Auburn neighborhood, and he's a member of our community of practice. So we're happy to have him and Sweet Auburn Works as part of the SBAN network. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here, and excited to have some conversation around this really important work, this national work that's so place-based and so hyper-local, and yet it affects so many places. So I'm excited to have a conversation.
Great. Well, can you just tell us more about your work and your organization and the community in which you work? What kind of issues are you trying to address?
100%. Well, we'll take it from the top. Sweet Auburn Works is a preservation-based economic development organization that's tasked with the continued revitalization of the Sweet Auburn Historic District here in Atlanta, Georgia. We are a Main Street community. We're the only Main Street, interestingly enough, in the city of Atlanta, and we're actively trying to make sure we grow that because we believe that, neighborhoods are built through intermediary organizations like ours to help look after the existing assets we have, and some of that's physical, old, interesting buildings, and some of that's our cultural heritage, and some of that's the people, the businesses, the institutions that have chosen to call this place home for so long. So, how we look after that group and then integrate in all the inevitable wealth and income and population and culture that's coming back into our urban cores all over the country.
So I know you just got done with Small Business Saturday there. I'm just curious, how did that go for you? What were you doing in Sweet Auburn?
So the Sweet Auburn Historic District on the east side of downtown Atlanta is a legacy historic African American neighborhood. We have barbers and salons, we have restaurants, we have a little bit of retail. And we're spoiled to have lots of tourist opportunities, right? We're the seat of the National Historical Park, the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Park, that brings just under 1 million visitors a year. The King Center is here as well, representing the legacy of and the teachings of Dr. King. We're also immediately adjacent to one of the most remarkable public works projects that the Southeast has seen in a while, that brings on our side of town just under 2.5 million people a year, something they call the Atlanta Beltline. And one of the things that I've been desperately interested in is being able to take that adjacent foot traffic and footfalls and potential new income and leverage it into my existing businesses. So this year's theme for Shop Small centered directly around existing retail and how I can set my retail up for success with new growth and new tourist dollars coming in. Something that I'm calling a Spark Innovation Lab, and what it does is it's a retail initiative that helps bring capital and technical assistance and sort of wraparound support to my existing retailers so that they can grow on their own terms. It starts off with a data grab. We're just trying to understand where we are, where my businesses are most capable operating sort of, intellectually and on the street, and setting them on a strategic path for growth so they can take advantage of the new capital, as I said, coming in, and let them be the best version of themselves.
And this innovation lab, how did you get this idea? Is this something that you heard your small business is calling for, or?
Well, I'll tell you this. I took it very personally that I had entrepreneurs who would like to put a better interior design foot forward, or a better merchandising foot forward, or a better customer experience foot forward, but they didn't have the resource or the purview or the friend, the friend cohort to help them think through problem solving. And I thought to myself, I don't want the commercial experience in my neighborhood to be lacking just because of things we lack. particularly in resources. So I thought of a way to subsidize those opportunities, subsidize the technical assistance, subsidize the funding, subsidize the design, and make sure that if I've got a great baker that makes the best pound cake, in the Southeast, that as soon as you step into your door, that's the expectation that you have, or step into her door, that's the expectation you have. The same with the vintage bookseller we have in the neighborhood. The same with the discount retailer. There's no reason at all why he shouldn't be his own best version of a Filene's Basement. And the hope was to marry resources and skills and capital to these exceptional entrepreneurs who have been slugging away for, in some instances, decades, Katy, in just making sure that the experience you have with them is the best experience possible in a commercial setting.
And you do have the best pound cake, right?
I'll tell you this. I'll give a plug, a shameless promotion. Sweet Auburn Bread Company's Chef Sonia, to this day, still has Bill Clinton's favorite sweet potato cheesecake. So the next time any of you guys are down in Atlanta on Auburn Avenue, feel free to stop in the Sweet Auburn Bread Company. You will, if you come within the next 6 months, you'll see a vastly redesigned interior. I'm sorry, after the next 6 months, you'll see a vastly redesigned interior that looks modern Parisian bistro with African-American Southern pastries and cuisine. I think you're really going to enjoy it.
If we were visiting Sweet Auburn for the first time, what should we know about what and who makes it what it is? And I'm also curious what people there would tell us about gentrification and displacement issues.
Sure. I'll start with the past. This thing behind me. The Sweet Auburn community, was born of a Shermantown. This is a post-Reconstruction, Jim Crow South, an agglomeration of African Americans in one space, living because it was one of the few places we could legally live in the city at the time. Then married with an event in 1906 that was the Atlanta race riots that we transitioned from residential to a commercial agglomeration of folks on Auburn Avenue. And in the decades that followed, the agglomeration of new businesses like the Atlanta Life Insurance Company, the Atlanta Daily World, which, as a matter of context, was the first successful daily Black newspaper in the country, with other African-American firsts, begin to build out a vibrant commercial corridor, as you've seen in any other neighborhood. I mean, we can go as far west as Greenwood in Oklahoma. You can come back to a sister neighborhood of ours in 4th Avenue in Birmingham. And, there are populations of African-Americans doing quite well, turn of the century and through post-depression, into the 40s and 50s, making remarkable things happen. For those who don't know, the nomenclature of Sweet Auburn was born out of a Forbes article in the 1950s, where this being one of the richest Black streets in the country, the moniker Sweet held on. Sweet with resource, with capital, with intellect, with political stability. We were Sweet Auburn. And half the job of this organization is to make sure that when you think about it now, you can envision the future as hearkening to the past. As every other urban core that looked African-American in most major cities at the time, moving post-civil rights into the 70s and 80s, we had retreated population, retreated capital, retreated businesses, retreated institutions, and it left holes in tax base, it left holes in capital, left holes in everything. We have a responsibility to reintegrate new capital, new people, new culture into this neighborhood in a way that my existing stakeholders can benefit from it. Mm-hmm. As has happened in lots of geographies, and even in the city of Atlanta itself, oftentimes those three factors come in and just run over a neighborhood, run over a town. Not on my watch will you ever be able to say that this organization put one of our businesses in a position where they would be left behind.
Well, I want to pivot to you a little bit. I'm curious if you can tell us, why do you do what you do and how did you come to this work?
Oh, that's really funny. I'll start by telling you what I'm not. I am not a preservationist necessarily, at least by training, not in community development or in economic development, um, um, or community activism. I came at this through the behest of some mentors who love this community and thought that it required a different level of skill set to work through some of the challenges that we have that are structural to everyone in this country, right? Some of our neighborhoods are math problems. Some of our neighborhoods are structural impediment problems, zoning problems, a lack of real estate ownership problems, and business operation challenges. And so I was a I spent a career in private investment, both at the fund level and then also at the operating level, and was hopeful to come back home to Atlanta and sort of relax for a bit. But I was compelled to this work through some mentors who thought it was a noble challenge to think about helping this neighborhood continue its growth. Those mentors did a great job from say 1980 until today, keeping it on firm footing, making sure that my landowning stakeholders have the ability to retain their land, finding resources to help solve some of the problems and keeping the city interested in mild infrastructure improvements. But we're a typical Black neighborhood near the downtown in large city, top 15 city, and we've got all the trappings of problems that all of us have. And so how do you take, the challenge for me and the joy for me was how do you take that basket of challenges, bring in a skill set, and begin to make magic out of weaving together opportunity with people, with municipality, with philanthropic capital, with private investment, and do it in a way that benefits African American culture across the country. Obviously, in my neighborhood, but again, it's a national challenge, a national problem that we have.
Can you tell us sort of what gives you hope in your work, right? I talked about some of the challenges, but what gives you hope?
Well, this is easy. This is my personality, so I can't really say this. Failure is not an option, Katie. It's not like I can't wake up in the morning and one day, Sweet Auburn looks like certain new parts of Brooklyn. That's not gonna wash in this neighborhood. So we have to, we have to do the work. We have to be vigilant. As new resources come in, they have to be to the benefit, again, of my landowning stakeholders and my businesses and my residents who say this is their home and they want to be here.